Good morning. I'm Pastor Ladina Boo from Stockton, Missouri. Once again, we're here to discuss trials and triumphs. My guest today is Kennedy, and Kennedy's mother is a drug addict. And
Kennedy or Kimberly?
Kennedy.
Why did I say it was Kimberly? I'm going to change that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
I didn't interrupt your show.
Okay, apparently we have an issue with her name. Anyway, her name is Kennedy.
Nobody corrected me.
She has a mother who was a drug addict, and her stepfather was a drug addict. Actually, your father was a drug addict too, was he not?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So
He still is, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Is that with an A or an I or an E?
Kennedy.
E. Oh, I missed that vowel altogether. Go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, Kennedy actually asked to come on the show today. She wanted to discuss what it's like to be the child of someone with a drug addiction and how it has impacted her life and everything that's going on. So say hello, Kennedy. Oh, now I'm trying to call you another name.
It's my fault.
Yep, Matt's fault. So Kennedy, you are what, 15?
I'm 16.
You are 16? Okay. And from my understanding, it was probably back when you were about 2 years old that you were removed from your mother's home. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what did they do with you at that point?
They put me with my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived my life with my grandmother up until my mom had got out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
I think last year, actually.
Yeah.
And so after I was put with my grandmother, I lived my life with her. She was my guardian. She made my decisions. She chose what I did, where I went, and stuff like that.
Did you see much of your mother through this time in 2007 when you were appointed a guardian and today? How much time did you get to spend with your mother during that?
I didn't get to spend a lot of time with my mom, but there were times where I did go stay with her, and there were times where I'd spend weekends with her. Like if I had a week off school, I would go stay with her for that week. But it wasn't very often
Mm-hmm.
because she was in and out all the time. And so it was just kind of like,
Did you
what the
witness
heck?
the drug use and everything when you were going and visiting your mother and your stepfather?
I did, yes. My little brother still lived with my mother at that time, and I had, there were times where I'd walk into the living room and they'd be with their friends and they'd be doing what they do and stuff like that. So, I'd walk back in the room and I told my brother, like, if you need something, let me know. I'll go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go out there.
Yep. I believe their drug of choice was methamphetamines, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm. Probably had some marijuana usage in there and so forth,
Yeah.
From what I understand, meth, you can be all high as a kite and everything, and you got to take a little bit of smoking a little marijuana to bring yourself down and
Yeah.
be socially acceptable.
Yeah.
But your mother has since kicked that habit, and so you now have a pretty good relationship with your mom, do you not?
Yeah, I do. I have a very good relationship with my mom. I'm back with her full time. I know she feels bad for all of the years she's missed in my life, but I think she's trying to make those up while I have the time that I have with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're almost to adulthood at this point.
Yeah.
So, and it would. She probably really wants to know if she can help you in all the times that she failed you previously, and give you a good guideline for moving on from this point. Now, your brother is not with you and your mother at this point. Is that correct? Isn't he living with his father?
Yes, he lives with his father. I think it's in Raymore, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very difficult because my little brother is like my best friend. I love him so much, but I do not like when me and him are separated because in my head, I'm the big sister. I have to protect him. I always have to be with him to keep him safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what goes through my head all the time. And I text him every day and make sure that he's okay, that everything's going good, and stuff like that.
Yeah. But you don't get to see him, do you?
Not really, no.
Now, he was also under guardianship with your other grandmother.
Yes, my grandma Kathy, which is
Mm-hmm.
his dad's mom.
Now, so neither one of you had the opportunity to really know your mother over the years and your father's. What did you think whenever you finally got to an age? Because you were, what, 2 years old when you were placed in guardianship.
Yeah.
Um, and that was a result of a violent conflict between your mother and her husband at that point, was it not?
Yes, my mom's ex-husband would abuse her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I witnessed it
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time too, growing up with staying with my mom. So, I watched her go through that pain,
Mm-hmm.
which traumatized me because, no kid wants to see their father figure, abusing their parents.
Right. And your mother suffering from that physical abuse, and I believe one day she was holding you and you ended up in the middle of the confrontation and ended up struck by
Yeah.
your stepfather
Yes.
and had to go on from there. And that's really whenever you ended up at your grandmother's, if I'm correct.
Yes. I think it was Child Protective Services that did take me away from my mother at that time and placed me with my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
and then signed guardianship papers or the original papers, and my grandmother took that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really hard on your grandmother also. I don't know that children understand that whenever a grandparent has to take guardianship in situations of this kind, the grandparent doesn't get the opportunity to be the grandparent because all of a sudden they're a parent again.
Yeah.
You don't get any of the fun stuff with grandkids. You can't spoil them and send them back home.
I my grandmother originally had 7 kids of her own, so I was basically like the 8th kid.
Hmm.
And I know that was really hard on her. I did a lot of crazy things, and I regret what I did. I do every day because, I didn't only hurt myself, but I hurt my grandmother as well. And that hurts me to know that I hurt my grandmother the way I did.
Hmm. But you're kind of just lashing out over the lack of your own parents being around, weren't you?
Yes, I did make a mistake where I had taken my grandmother's truck, yes, because it was around the time that I'd found out my mom had gone to prison. And I was super angry. I was getting bullied in school for the way I looked. People were calling me fat. People were calling me ugly. People were telling me my mom was never going to get better, that my mom didn't love me. And so I couldn't take it anymore and I lashed out. And I do regret taking my grandmother's vehicle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what was going through my mind. I was so angry. I was angry at the world. I was angry at my mom. I didn't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, it's really depressing when a parent goes to prison and then, you know, the guardian of that child probably has no desire to take time out of their life and haul a child to prison to see their parent.
Yeah, no.
You don't want to have your children, grandchildren exposed to having to talk to their mom or dad behind a glass wall.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time I would have had to have done that. When my mom was in jail one time, I think I was around maybe 8 or 9,
Mm-hmm.
just about, and my aunt took me to go see my mom while she was in jail, and I basically had to talk to her through like a video screen,
Mm-hmm.
but she was inside the jail, and I was in a little room with a whole bunch of other people, talking to my mother through a video screen.
And those video screens are horrible.
Oh, yes, they are. They are so bad.
I've talked to so many people on that video screen, and you can't hear them and you can't see them, and there's all kinds of stuff going on in the background.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
a horrible situation.
I'm pretty sure the video screen was in my mom's cell because she had all of her cellmates behind her and she was
Mm-hmm.
talking about me to them and stuff like that. And so,
Now, your mother never failed to love you, even through all of her addiction.
no, she never failed to love me, but it felt like she did because she did not care about what she was doing at the time. She didn't care about anybody. She didn't care about anything but her drugs and herself.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurt me because I thought maybe I did something wrong. I was sitting there every day and I was like, why doesn't my mom love me? Why does my mom not want me in her life? Why doesn't my mom want to be there for me? But that was before I'd really understood what my mom was actually doing with herself.
Mm-hmm.
She was destroying her life every day more and more. And it was upsetting when I did start realizing it as I was growing up. And then at one point I was just like, I there's nothing I can do. She's got to be ready to help herself until, she does help herself. I can't help her with anything that she does.
That's a hard point, isn't it? It's like, I want you to be better. I want you to be in my life. I want you to love me. Why can't you walk away from the drugs that are taking you from me?
Yeah,
You know?
that's really how I felt. When I was younger, I cried myself to sleep every night because, I didn't have a mom to hold me
Mm-hmm.
when I was a baby. I didn't have a mom to show me that love and affection. I didn't have a mom to be there for me. That person was really my grandma, but it was really difficult for her to do that because she does own her own business and she's gone all day and then she's super tired when she gets home at night. So it was like, you know,
And she was working 2 jobs most of that time, wasn't she? Waiting
yes.
tables and then a cleaning business.
Yeah.
So she had to work all the time.
Yeah.
And when you get older, you don't think about having babies around.
Yeah, no.
How old was your youngest aunt or uncle? I don't know who was the youngest one. And
My youngest aunt is my Aunt Natalie. She's now, I think, 24, 25, around there.
yeah, so you had about a 10-year difference between you and the other closest temporary sibling.
Yeah. Yeah, me and Natalie were really close growing up. We're still super close,
Mm-hmm.
which I love because Natalie's somebody I can talk to. She's somebody I can tell all my problems to. And I trust Natalie with my life, and I always have, and I always will. She's always been like a sister to me, and that will never change.
And she was available because she didn't have the drug addictions, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
She played part as my mom. She took, whenever she'd go hang out with her friends, I went with her.
Mm-hmm.
We shared a room. We slept in the same bed because we had a very small room. So we slept in the same bed, and she just basically played the part of mom. She cooked for me. She did my laundry. She helped me take baths when I was little.
Mm-hmm.
So she played mom.
And then as you got older, you tried to take that position with your own little brother, didn't you? Trying to protect him and keep him safe when you were around, and
Yes.
kind of. Most people I know whose parents are addicts or alcoholics or whatever the case may be, I do find the children to be much more caring and much more aware of their other siblings and trying to protect them. You know, because you're quite a few years older than your brother, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. How old is he these days?
I think he's around 11 or 12.
Hmm. So there was a few years difference there. You were even you weren't even living with your mom when your brother was born. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. That must have been disturbing to you, not knowing what was going on at that point and having a closer relationship with your little brother. I know you guys have tried to make up for it over the years, but you still don't get to see very often.
Yeah, no, but we do text every day and I call him every once in a while. Um, it was very disturbing not, you know, being able to see that my little sibling had been born.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was very upsetting.
Yeah.
But I did mainly play the part of mom when I was around my little brother. I helped bathe him.
Mm-hmm.
I basically did everything that Natalie did for me.
Right. Um, that's an awesome characteristic for you. I think you're an amazing child.
Thank
You know,
you.
you've gone through an awful lot with your step parents and your parents, and um, you know, having to watch what they did to their own life and how it was destroying them. And did you ever wonder, you know, why don't you open your eyes, Mom? I can see what you're doing, but you know, you're not paying attention. You're not,
Yeah.
you know, you need to walk away from this. And did you ever try to tell her that?
I did try telling her that all the time. I was like, you know, this is not good. This isn't good for you. You need to stop doing this. It's gonna kill you one day.
Mm-hmm. You know, at the methamphetamine, though, it messes with your brain to where you get to the point where you feel like you need more and more and more because, you know, your body has become used to that level of dopamine in their system. And so, you know, whenever they lose that, it's just give me more, give me more, give me more.
It's like I think in my opinion, it's like you get you break your arm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, a doctor prescribes you a painkiller for to take away that pain, but after a long while, your body gets used to that and then the pain starts getting worse and you need more and more and more and more and more until you're so addicted you can't stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You probably don't like going to doctors or anything then, do you? Don't like people prescribing you medications?
I don't like being prescribed medications. Um, I was diagnosed with depression a few years ago, and the doctor prescribed me. I don't remember what it was, but it was an antidepressant. Um, and I do still have it just in case. I keep it in a drawer by my bedside, but I had to take it because it was the only thing that was making me eat. It was making me happy. It was making me show emotion.
Mm-hmm. I know when I first put me on antidepressants, it's because every time somebody had talked to me, I break down in tears. It's like I cannot handle this,
Yeah.
you know. But there's nothing wrong with antidepressants, you know. If you need one, get one, but do it through a doctor. Don't try to self-medicate, you know, not in
Yeah.
that respect.
I was given mine by a licensed doctor, um, and it horrified me taking them because I didn't want to become an addict
Mm-hmm.
because I was scared. I don't even like going to doctors to get like shots or anything like that. I don't like being in the hospital in general.
Mm-hmm.
And if I wake up and see like a needle in my arm due to IVs and stuff like that, I start freaking out. I'm like, oh my God. I just,
Major anxiety at that point, right?
yeah, that is basically what that is for me. And a lot of people used to tell me when my mom was in prison that I was going to end up just like her. And, I just sat there and I told him, and I was like, I don't think you understand how horrified I am to even get prescribed medication from a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm that horrified of drugs that I don't even like. If I have to take medicine, I will. But if
Mm-hmm.
I do not have to, I keep it put up in a safe spot just because I don't want to follow my mother's footsteps.
That's one of the things with addiction. It's kind of generational in a lot of respects. I know I've known people that did drugs in front of their children all the time, and when their children got older, they were sitting around doing drugs with their children,
Yeah.
and they became addicts, and those situations broke my heart. So when all else fails, count yourself lucky that you weren't sitting there watching it every day
Yeah.
and thinking that it was the correct thing to do. Everybody has to make their own decisions, but I think you've probably seen enough to where you probably don't want to go anywhere close to any drugs, do you?
I really don't. I watched it destroy my mom's life, and along with destroying her life, it destroyed mine.
Hmm.
It was the reason I was diagnosed with depression. I was so, I don't even know how to say it. Like, I was just so in my own head
Hmm.
that I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to drink anything. I sat in my room all day. I never wanted to leave. I didn't want to go out. And me in general, like when I'm a happy, uppy person, I love getting out of the house. I like going out and doing stuff. I'm not a homebody person.
Hmm.
And that's how people started to know I was diagnosed with depression.
Hmm.
Uh,
You just wanted to crawl in your little hole and be there by yourself, huh?
yeah, I didn't want to date anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to look at anybody. I didn't want to do anything.
As your mother's addiction, her prior addiction, she is no longer an addict. Um, did it affect you at school and stuff? Were children bothering you about your mother's actions and asking why you lived with your grandma and so forth?
Yeah, they did. I didn't mind answering questions as long as they weren't like rude things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did get asked a lot, why do you live with your grandmother? Where's your mom? And, I would answer them in the best way possible. My mom is out doing whatever she does best, and I can't stop her.
Mm-hmm.
I live with my grandmother because my mom is a drug addict, and that's how I would answer those questions. Because I mean, you can still to this day go on Google and search up my mom's name, and you'll find pictures of her, and it breaks my heart to
Yep.
know that that woman in those pictures is my mother.
Yeah. I've looked at her mugshots before. She takes a really good mugshot.
Yeah.
She takes a wonderful picture, but you never want your mom or your dad in that position.
Yeah, no,
It,
no.
it kind of destroys your own self-esteem and so forth. I know you said you'd had trouble with self-esteem. You know,
Yeah. I'm actually just now for the past couple of weeks I've been coming around. I've been loving myself. I It feels great. I love loving myself because, in my head you can't love anybody else until you truly love yourself.
yeah, and that's probably something that's taken a long time for you to learn because I know you said you felt like your mother didn't love you and
Yeah.
so forth because she was always out of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, she'd just pop in for a visit and then
Yeah,
be
she'd
gone.
pop in for a couple of days, sometimes a couple of weeks, but she wouldn't be clean.
Mm-hmm.
She'd lie about being clean all the time just so she could see me. But when my grandma knew she was lying, I was not allowed to see my mother.
Yeah. Could you tell the difference in your mother from when she was not using and when she was using when she came to see you?
Yeah, there's a very obvious difference. When my mom is not using, she she just kind of like stays in her own lane. My mom is quite the nosy person. She likes to know what's going on all the time. Um, so when she was on drugs, she stayed in her own lane. She didn't talk to anybody really. She didn't ever want to go out, do anything. And when she was clean, she always wanted to go out. She wasn't worried about going outside. She wasn't worried about even stepping on her front porch.
Right.
And so that was something that I did notice growing up with her in and out all the time, clean and not clean, is when she was on drugs, she was so paranoid she couldn't even look out her windows.
That would be a scary way to live, in my opinion. I don't think I could
Yeah,
tolerate that,
no.
And but she did teach you what you didn't want to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
she horrified me when I wasn't talking to her, when I wasn't visiting with her, I was sitting there thinking, well, is she dead? Did she overdose? I was horrified. I didn't know if maybe she overdosed and, she
Or
didn't ever talk to anybody
got
except
into a
for,
bad drug deal.
yeah, she could have been shot and she could have been stabbed, and I would have never known because she wasn't there. She was never in my life at that point.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking whenever your parents are gone that way, I think.
Yeah, it
I,
is really upsetting.
I've known a lot of people that ended up being drug addicts, and I always felt for their children because I could never understand how drugs could be more important to them than the child that the Lord gave them.
That's how I felt growing up my entire life is, I'm my mom's firstborn child,
Hmm.
and looking at her choosing something that ruined her life over me and just both of her kids really,
Hmm.
that was more upsetting to me because I thought maybe I'd done something wrong. I didn't know if it was me, if it was something I did, if it was the way I looked or anything.
Yeah. You were taken at a very young age and placed with your grandmother, and uh, that would really mess with your psyche. Why am I here? Why is my mother not here with me?
Yeah, and that's what it did. Um I don't really ever talk to anybody. I I stick to myself a
Hmm.
lot. I don't have very many friends. I have a couple of friends at most.
You were raised up in a small town, though, that um, everybody knew what your mother was up to around there, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Hmm. They probably expressed their opinions quite vocally, too, didn't they?
they did, and I expressed how I felt to them about their opinion. I said, I don't really care. That's my mom, and I can't help her until she's ready to help herself.
Hmm.
So your 2 cents in my life does not matter to me because that is not your business.
Yeah.
What my mom does, that's my mom, and what my mom does is what she does.
No, the small town always knows what everybody else is doing. My uncle in our small town, he used to go to town, and I call him up and saying, "Okay, well, what'd you buy at the dollar store?" And he's like, "How do you know I went there?" And I said, "I know everything before you can get back home." And I know the town you were living in, there was a lot of that also. That everybody knew everybody else's business, and that probably caused you a few issues in school, and that part of the bullying, was it not?
It was. A lot of kids would tell me that my mom was always going to be a druggie, that she was never going to get clean, and that one day she was just going to die,
Hmm.
not caring about me.
Did they ever tell you that you were going to be the same?
Yeah, they did. A lot of kids actually told me that. A lot of my peers did tell me that I was going to be just like my mother, and that I was gonna be a druggie and that I would never get clean and that I would die.
It's heartless comments. People are really mean.
Yeah. That's the main reason why I just stick to myself. I don't like talking to people. I mean, I'm not a homebody person, but I don't like talking to people because of those harsh comments that I got growing up.
Yeah, it's hard to open up to people after that. You were always very open about your mother's drug addiction, though, and
Yeah, I was. It was a part of my life, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it.
hmm
I'm not gonna put a layer of caramel over it or anything like that. It's a bumpy road that happened in my life, and I'm not gonna pave over it.
hmm yeah. Always have to learn to move on from the past and not let it drag you down. So many young people get to that depressive state and think nothing's ever going to change, and uh, so they just kind of give up on themselves and on anything better in life. I've seen some children of addicts do that and get right back into the same thing that took their parents away from them and hurt them so horribly. Um, it would be easy to fall into that, wouldn't it, though? If do you think if you had lived with your mother and your stepfather that you would have developed a different attitude towards drugs?
Yes, I really do. I think Child Protective Services putting me with my grandmother was the best thing for me
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like if I would have lived with my mom all of those years, that right now, to this day, that I'd be sitting there in the living room with my mother, my ex stepfather, and their friends doing drugs with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the methamphetamine and any other drugs, the heroin and so forth. Um, children learn what they live. And so if they live in an environment where somebody is drunk all the time, or they're on drugs all the time, or they're shooting needles in their arms and so forth, they learn that behavior and it becomes normal for them, you
Yeah.
know. So I think you were probably very well off with your grandmother because she does have a real anger when it comes to drugs. It seems like she's,
She does. That's kind of where I got my anger for drugs. That's why I do not like drugs.
hmm
Not only because that's what my grandmother taught me and told me about drugs. It's for the fact that I watched my mother do them. I watched my ex stepfather do them, and it crushed my life.
you saw a lot of violence in their household too, did you not?
I did. I saw my ex stepfather beating my mother up all the time, and that was traumatizing for me. I now have PTSD from people being in my face.
hmm
Uh, if someone raises their hand the slightest, I get horrified
Yeah.
because I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know if they're gonna hit me or I just it's scary sometimes.
And it's always, if nothing else, you've learned what you don't want in your life.
Yeah.
It's hard to make parents in a addiction setting make them understand what's going on with their children because a lot of times they just can't see you.
Yeah.
They're trying to look at you, and this little pile of meth right here is calling their attention, or this needle over here is calling their attention. So
Yeah.
you get shuffled to the background.
Yeah. It's like you're in a coffin and you're 6 feet in the ground and meth is the dirt
hmm
or the needles are the dirt. That's what it felt like. I felt like I was dead to my mother.
I'm so sorry you felt that way. Yeah. I think she's a wonderful child. She's very amusing. You homeschool these days, though, to avoid the bullying. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I go to Penn Foster me and my mom and Michael pay $50 a month for me to get a high school diploma through online school. And I just do it to avoid getting myself in trouble, to avoid, being in any situation that I can't walk away from.
Mhm. Well, if it gives you peace of mind and gets you a diploma,
Yeah.
because you will have a diploma, I will track it down. Well, Kennedy actually volunteered to come on today. She had sent a message and said that she wanted to talk about being a child that had addicted parents. And, I think it's important for young people to be able to speak their mind and to be able to tell what they went through, because most parents, when they're in that cycle of addiction, they just don't know what you're doing, do they?
Yeah,
Even when they're there, they're not there.
Yeah, they don't care. They act like they don't care about you. That's what it feels like. It feels like they don't love you, and it feels like they don't care about you at all.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the way I looked at it and the way I felt was I looked at it as my mom didn't love me, she didn't care about me, and she didn't want me. It makes you feel unwanted.
You're kind of invisible at that point to them, aren't you?
Yeah. And, growing up with a little brother, he was always visible.
Mm-hmm.
Always. He got everything he wanted, and that was painful for me because, I never got anything growing up. That was my life. I never got anything growing up, and I watched my brother get everything I wanted.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, these days your brother is living with an addicted parent.
Yeah.
And that always concerns me, but I am so glad that you're not.
I'm so happy I'm not either.
Your life is pretty good right now, living with your mother and her husband, is it not?
Yeah, it really is. I love my life now, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
I've got a father figure, and it's Michael. I do refer to him as dad. Like when I'm talking to people on the phone, or I'm talking to my friends anywhere, I always refer to Michael as my dad.
Well, your mother and Michael both came out of addiction, though, and I think both of them have reached the stage where they're not going back no matter what.
Yeah. And I'm glad that Michael is here to help my mom with keeping her away from those addictions.
It makes a difference when you have somebody help prop you up.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you are now living with your mother. Y'all don't have a whole lot, but
Yeah.
you don't have a whole lot, but it doesn't take a whole lot to be happy, does it?
No, it really doesn't. It takes what you love. What you love and care about, that should be home.
Mm-hmm.
The things you truly love, that is your home. It doesn't matter whether you're on the streets or not. That is your home.
Right.
And where you are with the people that you love and truly care about, that is.
And when they've stopped loving other things other than you, right?
Yeah, that they become your home again.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels great to have my mom as my home again, and I want to be everywhere my mom is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm so happy you are.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy you came to see with us today. Kennedy is going to have to go back and get some schoolwork done here pretty quick, but
Oh yeah.
she could.
It's simple. It's pretty easy. So.
But thank you so much for coming and sharing your
Of
thoughts
course.
today. Thank everyone for watching, and we'll go on to these lovely subjects again next week. Thank you and good day.